The world is seething with anger after an Israeli airstrike claimed the lives of at least 45 people who were sleeping in the refugee camps in Rafah, despite an ICJ order to stop its offensive. Israel still shows no signs of de-escalation. In less than 48 hours, Israel struck again, killing at least 21 more Palestinians in a displacement camp west of the southern city of Rafah. According to Gaza emergency services, they say 4 tank shells hit a cluster of tents in the al-Mawasi, a coastal area that Israel had advised civilians in Rafah to move to for safety. According to medical officials, 12 women were among the dead in the latest attack.
I woke up to bombing and the children were asleep. I said, thank God they're asleep. I went to the door, slept on the doorstep, and the children were all inside. I heard a strong sound and found smoke rising from the tent. I went into the tent and found the woman was bleeding and the children were bleeding. All the children that were in the tent were wounded. Not one of them came out in one piece.
Despite ICJ's provisional orders urging Israel to cease military operations in Rafah, defiant Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is adamant to go on till the end.
Despite our best effort not to harm the uninvolved, a tragic accident unfortunately happened yesterday. We are investigating the case and will draw the conclusions. I would like to clarify I am not ready to surrender and fold. I am not ready to end the war before all its objectives are completed. Our heroes did not fall in vain. If we surrender, the massacre, the rape, and the murders of October 7th will repeat itself again and again and again, just as Hamas promised.
Meanwhile, Israel says it is investigating Sunday's strike, which triggered a blaze in a tent camp, killing at least 45 people. The incident has drawn widespread outrage and international condemnation. The EU had threatened to impose sanctions on Israel, but the United Nations Security Council called for an emergency meeting at the behest of Algeria, while Spain, Ireland and Norway joined the chorus backing a Palestinian state.
On Sunday night, we eliminated senior Hamas terrorists in a targeted strike on a compound used by Hamas in Rafah. The strike was based on precise intelligence that indicated that these terrorists, who were responsible for orchestrating and executing terror attacks against Israelis, were meeting inside the specific structure we targeted.
British Foreign Secretary David Cameron says an investigation by the Israeli army into overnight airstrikes in Rafah must be done rapidly.
Well, I think that what happened in Rafah overnight really did look very, very concerning, very worrying, and so we're asking for that to be investigated rapidly. The Israelis have already said it was a tragic mistake, but we want to see that properly investigated.
Across the world, protests are spreading against Israel's continued offensive in Gaza. In Paris, over 10,000 people took part in a demonstration near the Israeli embassy. In the center of Tunis, hundreds of protesters rallied in support of the Palestinians, denouncing the bombardments in Gaza. Well, we understand that the United Nations Security Council has called an emergency meeting following Israel's strikes in Rafah. The meeting is scheduled to convene in a few hours from now. The emergency meeting has been called by Algeria, which is a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Let's talk more about this. Our correspondent Susan Teherani is now joining us live from New York. Hi, Susan. What more do we know about this emergency meeting being held by the United Nations Security Council?
Yeah, Eric, as you mentioned, it was requested by Algeria, and council members are going to meet behind closed doors this afternoon, a little after 3 p.m. Before that, we're expected to hear from France's ambassador to the UN. He's been very critical of Israeli actions in Gaza, but on the other hand, has said that Israel has the right to defend itself as well. Ultimately, there is a draft proposal, a resolution for a ceasefire that has been put forth by France a few weeks ago. Council members really want to discuss that as well and see how far they can go, where they can sort of reach some kind of consensus with the United States, Israel, and others who oppose it, and move forward with that. But this particular meeting this afternoon is going to be about Rafah. What's going to be discussed? Well, we'll have to wait and see. We're not going to be able to see it live, but after that, we'll bring you all the reporting from the UN.
Very quickly, Susan, before I let you go, what are some of the reactions from American authorities following the strike that has really angered the world right now?
Yeah, those Israeli strikes on Rafah have really caused a stir, definitely. Here in the United States, U.S. officials have said that they believe that the loss of life in Gaza is going overboard. It's too much. We know the Biden administration's stance on this has changed. But on the other hand, you know, the United States has Israel has many allies here in the United States. And considering the fact that Hamas launched those rockets about 48 hours ago into Tel Aviv, then that sort of makes this situation a lot more complicated.
All right, I've been talking to Susan Teherani, who is our correspondent in New York. Thank you, Susan. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.